This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Ever wondered how you could turn your side hustle into a full-time gig and spend more time together?
Hi, I'm Vikki, a #1 best-selling author.
And I'm John, a retired Los Angeles police officer. Welcome to Dig the Well, where we help couples navigate the world of business.
We've been married for 35 years, and because we built a successful side business, John retired 9 years earlier than he originally planned from the Los Angeles Police Department after 25 years on the job. Now we spend more time together, and we want to help couples like you do the same.
Join us as we help you overcome common obstacles, and we show you how to make extra income without sacrificing family time.
Ready to dig deep and build your well? Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to Dig the Well podcast.
Happy New Year again.
Yeah, Happy New Year. We dropped our first episode of the year on January 2nd. So go back and listen if you've missed that. It's now January 9th. It's so exciting. And I also wanted to remind a couple of you that have not let us know that you heard the episode where we announced the winners of our holiday contest, where we gave over $800 worth of prizes. That was actually last week. So that January 2nd episode, you might be a winner. So make sure to go back and listen to the end, because that's when we announced it. But we are back, excited. I've been talking to a lot of people, John, about the new year. And I know we talked all through February on all 3 episodes about don't lay down in December. Don't let your foot off the gas. And guess what most people said they did? They laid down and let their foot off the gas. Yeah, you could guess it. They did. We had the biggest month of the year for us personally in our business in December, and it's amazing how many people didn't. And that's the common denominator. It truly is. So definitely go back and listen to those episodes too, because we had a lot on goal setting for this new year, and it's never too late. Honestly, never too late as an entrepreneur to do that. Don't let the month go by without you setting those goals, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people they have so many excuses available to them around the holidays, and they tend to use them.
Yeah.
And I think truly successful people, they don't take the easy path. They don't, like for anything, you never take the easy path. It's a lot of times a difficult path will teach you so much and make you a better person and a better business person. But especially around the holidays, you can take the easy path and just bow out of everything and just not build your business, not work on your business, but it's not going to help you. And I think that's what a lot of successful people do is they realize, hey, I'm going to double down now because most people are not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take advantage of that. And it's true even in the beginning of the year, because there's so many people that have made New Year's resolutions. And think about how many people have New Year's resolutions, and then by February 1st, they don't.
Right.
Right, because they end up quitting on them. So now's a good time to just double down again. And if you took December off, you shouldn't take January off by any means.
Not at all. Yeah. If you're invited to that networking meeting, go. If you're invited out with friends, go. If you're invited to go anywhere, show up in January.
Actually, you've taken on a lot more responsibility with some networking organizations and whatnot, just knowing that coming down at the end of the year, it's the time, right? It's really the time.
Yeah, exactly. And going and getting your name out there as an entrepreneur, having people see your face. Now that COVID is long gone, you guys, some of you are still living in that philosophy that I'll just do everything online.
I still see people driving by themselves in their car with their windows up and a mask on.
I know. They're protecting themselves from themselves. And I know there's some of you that believe differently than we do, but it does crack us up.
Yeah. Sorry.
It really does. Yeah. And I know that's crazy. So you really have seen that lately?
Yeah, I still see it.
I used to see it.
I point at them and I'm like, what's the deal? And they know. They don't even want to make eye contact.
I know.
Like,
I know. It's funny. I pray that they just forgot to take it off, but I don't think so.
Yeah. And honestly, I have worn a mask. Gosh, it was last year sometime, and I needed to get my hair cut. and I was wearing a mask, and they were kind of laughing at me because they'd never seen me with a mask on before, even during COVID. Like where we live, even when there was that mask mandate, most of what was around our house, nobody was wearing masks, and the businesses stayed open, and they didn't really worry too much about it. And so this particular business, they had to they had to comply with some of the rules and regulations, but they didn't believe in them either. And so I go in there to get my hair cut, and they were kind of laughing at me. I said, no, I didn't get all crazy. I woke up this morning and I had a runny nose and I was sneezing. So I
Yeah.
knew I had this hair appointment. I can make it next week again if you guys are worried, but I wore a mask anyhow. And they were so thankful. They thank you so much. That was really nice of you. Because I realized how masks work. All right. I read the science on it, and it doesn't protect me from airborne particles. It protects everyone else from my airborne particles that I could be breathing out.
Yeah.
So they were so happy about that. It turned out I wasn't sick. It was just the allergies. So I guess that morning, later that evening, I was clear. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
But I did wear a mask. Not in the car by myself, but when I got out of the car with the mask on.
That's since we're on that topic, it's kind of funny. And I know you guys are kind of learning. We like to tell stories on this podcast, and just from our life experience. And, John is Japanese, or maybe you didn't, if this is your first episode. He's half Japanese, and all of his relatives, besides his mom and sister, are here in the United States, but all the rest are in Japan. And so we've gone many times. We love Japan. Shout out for Japan. You've got to go if you've never gone. Nicest people, cleanest nation in the world. And we would see, this was back in 2001, was my first trip. You went in 88, right?
No, before that one was in high school.
Oh.
I was probably about 13, I think it was. I went back with my mom.
And then
I know what you're getting at, the masks.
Yes. I'm going to circle back. Yeah. So,
I got some about that.
So John went, in the 80s, then we went as a family in 2001, then back in 16 and 17 and 18 and even 19, I think. Anyway, we would be on trains because, they're big public transportation people, and it's amazing and clean and great. And people would be wearing masks, and we would laugh. We found out why they wore them, and it was just for that reason. Anytime they felt a little cold coming on or they felt sick, they wanted to be respectful of other people and not pass their germs on to other people. We thought that was the coolest thing, but we did have to chuckle a little bit. John would make a joke. Do you mind me telling? Wait,
no, go ahead.
So John would say, "Oh, there's a doctor on the train," right? Or there's another doctor. And we would see a car go by.
Half the country were doctors and nurses.
Because don't forget, in the U.S., we had never seen people wearing masks anywhere.
Except at a hospital.
Except in Japan. Yeah, in the hospital and then in Japan. And it was really cool to find out they really just cared about hygiene that much and other people. So what were you going to share?
I was going to share that the first time I was in Japan with my mom, I asked her that. I said, why are there so many doctors and nurses running around every train station that we saw? And she kind of laughed and she said, it's a culture here. She said, if you feel that you may be getting sick, if for any reason, they said everybody masks up right away just to protect others. And think about it too, before COVID, when, like we just said, when did you see medical personnel, medical staff wearing masks? It was at hospitals, but they weren't just walking around the hospital in the waiting room, in the examination room with a mask on.
Right.
It was in surgery. And the reason why they wore the mask was to protect the patient, not to protect themselves from the patient, was to protect the patient because they had the patient opened up and there's a risk of infection. But think about it. When you went to the doctor for your annual checkup, or you went to the doctor if you weren't feeling well, if you went to the doctor because you sprained your ankle, when did the doctor ever examine you with a mask on?
Right.
Until COVID, until everybody went crazy with COVID. Think about it.
Yeah.
If the mask really worked and was protecting you from other people, every doctor and every nurse would be wearing a mask because they're constantly in contact with sick people all day long.
Right.
Why would they want to bring that home? If the mask truly protected them, they would have been wearing it since when they invented those masks.
Yeah.
They would always have been wearing masks.
Yeah.
But they hadn't until COVID. So anyways,
that was not our topic. We're passionate people. And when we're talking about something, we get passionate
about it. And if you believe in the mask and if you believe it's protecting you, then
wear it.
Yeah. Honestly, that's great. Then I'm glad you do. But I believe in reading some of the science about it and looking into that and talking to other people who kind of know about that. And it's, especially when you talk about these 5 micron masks, how is that ever going to protect you from a 1 micron virus?
Right. So anyway, but the topic of this episode was thought of because last week in our previous episode, we talked about FORM. And it's an acronym. And we kind of chatted about that. And I even tried to get John to give you this podcast, I guess you'd call it, a little bit by telling you a little more. He did a tiny bit, but he didn't really go into detail. And it is such an amazing tool that I think of good. You do too. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think again, we don't discuss at length what we're going to talk about. We know this stuff and we love our banter. So we just said, hey, let's talk about FORM and how it relates to traditional business owners, to direct sales people. And so, so we haven't talked about it, but I think of it as a tool to use to pull out of your tool belt in your entrepreneurship journey or entrepreneur journey, and it's a great way of remembering how to talk to people, because sometimes we get tongue tied, right? When all of a sudden it's about our business, we think of ourselves instead of thinking about other people. It's a great tool. So I'm going to dive in, and John is a pro at FORM. Anytime our team needs an update or a refresher course or just a course in general on meeting people out and about and what you should say to them and how you should talk to them, I say, you got to talk to John. Or John, we need to do another training on FORM. So I'm going to kind of interview you. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So what is FORM? Can you just give kind of a broad overview?
Yeah, so like Vikki was saying, it's an acronym, and it's nothing new. It's been around for a long time. And so the letters stand for family, occupation, recreation, and typically the M stands for motivation. But we've kind of changed it a little bit ourselves, because I don't believe that you can help motivate anyone. And it's more or less motivation comes from within, and you can influence people to find that motivation, but you can't technically motivate them, right? They have to motivate themselves. And if you do FORM, if you go through family, occupation, recreation, you're going to find out pretty quickly how motivated that person is, or how that person is self-motivated, right? And you'll know if they would rather sit on the couch and watch TV all day long rather than go out and do anything or build anything. You learn that pretty quickly. And so what we use, the M is message, and the message is the offer, or the offer of your business opportunity to them, or whatever it is that you sell, or whatever it is that you want to talk to them about. If you're just a standard employer and you want to employ this person, FORM's a great way to kind of get to know them, to find out if you want to offer them an application for employment, and if they even want to be a part of it. So that's how we've kind of changed the acronym a tiny bit.
Yeah. So FORM, family, occupation, recreation, message, just in case you're taking notes. So, okay, let's just dive right in. So you're out and about, and this is what you use when you're out and about mostly, right?
I look at it this way. If you do the FORM properly, and it's just a way of talking to other human beings, right? And it's a way of talking to them and being interested in them, like we all should be, as I don't know, as a society, right? We should care about other people. And this way, this FORM allows you to talk to someone, converse with someone, and it's because you really do care. You're not trying to fake it. You're not trying to make it kind of a timeshare sales thing where you really don't care about this person. You're just trying to make a sale on them. That's not it. You really do want to get to know them, because you may find out that you don't want this person in your business, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story later about that.
Yeah.
How that really worked out well for us. But it's just a way for you to talk to someone. It's easy. It's simple. It breaks the ice. Because think about it. If you're just out in the middle of anywhere, just out in public, and you see a stranger, how are you going to go over and start striking up a conversation with that stranger without sounding weird?
Right.
Right. Well, this way it can be done. Like the other day, we just went over. Remember, we were over in San Clemente.
Right.
And there's that Akita walking up the street.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had an Akita. So it was easy for me to, hey, is that an Akita? That's an Akita. He's like, yes, he is. And then he and I struck up a conversation. I ended up I know where he lives. He told me he lives down the street at that house. He gave me his phone number. We texted a couple of times later that night. And if I decided, hey, I want to share our business with him, I would continue that form process.
Yeah.
But as a way for he and I to break the ice, talk about the dogs, talk about stuff that we have in common, and we can move on from there.
Right. So what you're saying is form in general, if you're talking to someone, hey, do you have a couple kids? Are you married? That would be the F for family, right? But in that case, you went a little out of order.
I generally do.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing that I think once people start to use form more, they're not so robotic. Hey, are you married? And then occupation. What do you do for a living? And wait, what am I supposed to ask next? Recreate. What do you do for fun? No, it's not that way at all. Those three things, like the Akita, is something they're interested in. Like kind of recreation could be interest also. So yeah, sports too. You're big on talking to people about sports.
So I normally don't open up with family because that can seem kind of weird. Like you meet a stranger and you start asking them about their kids.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be weird.
I'd get weirded out if someone started asking about my kids. Like, I don't even know you, dude.
Yeah.
So what I normally do is I try and figure out something that would break the ice. If I see them and maybe they're wearing a certain watch that I can open hey man, that's a pretty cool watch. I haven't seen that before. And then like, oh yeah, and usually they're proud of stuff like that.
Right.
If there a lot of people wear logo gear and it has some sort of sports team. So I try and keep up with different sports. Just so I can carry on a halfway intelligent conversation with someone about sports, even if I'm not interested in the sport itself.
Right.
But at least I know enough to where I can carry a conversation with them.
Right. Because you've told me, because we're just big football people, as most people know about us, and hockey, right? Mm-hmm. And baseball, right? Yeah. But you know a little bit. Soccer, same thing. Or, you know a little bit. Yeah, that's smart, actually. Yeah. I don't think women do that necessarily. I think that's really smart.
And people love to talk about that. Then as you get into that, you start, and what you're doing is when you're asking questions, and most of a form is going to involve you asking questions. And I think don't put so much pressure on the right questions to ask. As long as you're asking them questions in those three areas, family, occupation, or recreation, you're going to be pretty good because people love to talk about those three things, right?
Right.
And everybody has that. Almost everyone has family. Almost everyone has an occupation, and almost everyone has an interest in some sort of recreational activity. So you're in pretty good shape there. The most important part of it, though, isn't really the questions you ask, is listening to those answers.
Yeah. And filing it away, right?
Yeah.
So you remember.
And I think what doesn't help is if you ask something and they answer it, and then if you didn't listen and you ask again, or you ask another question that comes back to the first one, they're thinking, I just answered that. Weren't you listening to me?
Yeah, but okay. There is, we won't get in, let's not get into too many details on that. Because John says sometimes I do that. No. I think people are genuinely okay when you're just meeting them. If you asked a question and you're not asking if you ask the exact same, I get it. But if like in a roundabout way, you lead back, you ask them again, and then like the person like me realizes, oh, I already asked you that. At least you can save yourself. Cause I have done that. Oh shoot, that's right.
But I asked you that. Honest about it. You're like, oh my gosh, you already answered that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then that's great, right?
Yeah.
But if you weren't to do that, then obviously you weren't listening to the first answer because you didn't even catch the fact that they just answered the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So clearly you weren't listening.
It's true.
You were, though.
Yeah.
Because you catch it. Yeah.
I do try. Yeah. Because my brain, I definitely have adult ADD. Shout out to any of the adult ADDs. And I try not to blame it, but I do see how I'm different than other people. I just do. And I know some people are different like that. But at least like John says, I try to catch that, hey, I already asked you that. Sorry.
But, surprisingly, a lot of the really successful entrepreneurs have ADD.
I know. So many.
A lot of them do. Yeah.
So many.
Yeah. So, I mean, it
even
can be a blessing.
Zuckerberg.
It can be a curse and a blessing. And I think it is a blessing in many ways.
Yeah. I know, because we're go people. We're like
energized.
Yeah. Hyper focused. We're energizer bunnies that we just keep going. Some of the young people listening may not even know what that is. That's probably a 20-year-old commercial.
No, we should have like little commercial clips that we can show this stuff.
We should. So, okay. So you're out and about meeting someone, and you might talk about something else, like at the plane or over here, something out the window, but then somehow it can lead to asking about family. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
like really
right.
get clear.
It's gonna lead down a lot of different paths, but you just have to kind of run with it, because they may, you may start out talking about maybe their occupation for some reason. Like a lot of times,
Right.
if I'm on a plane and there's not a whole lot to talk about, and oftentimes your seatmate doesn't really want to talk to you anyhow.
That's true.
And then sometimes they do, and they're just way too talkative. So what
Yeah.
I usually do is a forming session shouldn't be like a 3 hour Spanish Inquisition,
Right.
right? It should
Good
be kind of short
point.
and sweet, because the other thing too is you really can't file away and remember that much stuff.
Right.
All right.
Exactly.
So I try and make them fairly short. So a lot of times what I'll do is, if I'm on a plane, I know commercial aircraft descent from 30,000 plus feet, it takes about half an hour
Right.
before they start the descent until they're basically wheels down. 30 minutes is a long time
It is.
to do this.
You need like 15. I
Yeah.
feel
So
like.
what I do is when I'm on a plane, I just kind of mind my own business for the flight, and I feel the plane starting the descent, right? And then a little while later, they want to start cleaning up the cabin. So everyone's awake at that point. Everyone's busy. They're cleaning up all their trash and giving it to the flight attendant. Well, that's a really good time to break the ice and start that whole forming process. So my seatmate, I'll ask, I don't. It could be anything. It could be, hey, do you fly a lot, or
Uh-huh.
do you fly this particular airline a lot? And to kind of give you an idea, what was recent, Vikki wasn't flying with me, so I was on the plane without her. So I had a different guy sitting next to me, and I just asked him if he flew quite a bit, because I had a feeling he did, just the way that he interacted with the way the flight attendant interacted with both of us, because they interact with people that have elite status a little differently oftentimes, and they'll say something. So I figured he did. And he said, yeah. And I said, oh, okay. Because, yeah, I fly mostly for work. So he's like, leaves out, he
Yeah.
kind of baits the hook a little bit, right? So I fly a lot for work. So what do you do for a living? So he tells me what he does. He works for uh, a paint company. And he said his employer flies him all over the world to do quality control at these paint factories. And
Which,
they
by
have,
the way, is very interesting.
it was, right? So
Yeah.
here's the other
Totally.
great thing about Form. I never talked to him about the business.
Yeah.
This guy, we never really got to that point, and that's fine. But I had
Yeah.
a great conversation with someone, learned a lot about paint quality control.
I was going to say the paint industry.
Had no idea that this particular company, which everyone's probably familiar with, they have paint manufacturing facilities all over the world, and they fly this guy around. That's what he does. And that's
Oh.
why he earns so many frequent flyer miles. That's why he's attained the highest level of status in American Airlines. He also was an executive platinum. And it was just because he inspects paint.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what he does.
We find it so interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super
Yeah.
interesting.
So you never, okay. And so that leads back to, and maybe we should transition into the conversation where you said you formed a guy. I think I remember the one you're talking about, and then didn't offer the business on purpose because you realized I do not want this guy in my business. So there was not enough time to offer the business, or you might have also figured out that he was just way too busy already. Probably is that also why you didn't
No,
really
this was just
get his
because
number?
he basically told me that, well, what happened was I'd broken my phone for about the 10th time, right? The display on my phone. I just was really bad with it. And so there was a place, because I was a frequent phone fixer. Uh, there was a place that would replace the glass on it. It was really cheap, and they
Yeah.
did good work, and they were pretty quick about it. But this particular time, they were busy, so I walked over to a restaurant, sat at the bar, and I thought, well, I'll have a beer while I'm waiting for my phone to get fixed. And in comes an Uber Eats driver. Right. And
Mm.
so he was waiting for the order. They had screwed the order up. So he was stuck there, and he was kind of complaining about that. So I just thought, well, you know what? I'll get him out of his bad mood and just have him start talking about what he does. So I started forming. I started asking about the Uber Eats program, how that works, and this and that.
Do you love it? Because that's generally what you typically do.
Yeah. Then he told me, he said, yeah. I said, do you also drive for Lyft? Because Uber and Lyft are the big rideshare companies. And he said, no, I don't. I only drive for Uber. I said, oh, that's weird, because most of the guys that I've talked to that are in the rideshare business do both. He said, I'd love to. In fact, I'd rather work for Lyft than Uber, but Lyft won't hire me.
Oh.
And I said, really? So then he basically said that the Lyft standard was much higher than the Uber standard. And he said they sent me they've told me that I'm not acceptable to them. They excuse me, I don't reach their standard. And so I said, well, just write them a letter back and maybe they can revisit that. He goes, oh no. He goes, there's no way. Because I'm lucky I'm hired by Uber. There's no way that Lyft's going to hire me. And he
That's
said, in fact,
scary.
they sent me a letter saying that please do not ever contact us again. So that's telling me there's something to do with this guy's background. And then he had also said that he couldn't get any other regular job because they do background checks.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. We don't want him in our business.
So then I was like, I couldn't wait for his food to be ready. And finally it was ready. I'm like, hey, buddy, you have a safe day.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
So you can use form, is what you're saying, to rule people out of your business as well. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Yeah. So again, we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, that if you have a friend that's in business and they approach you about it, take it as a show of respect, honestly, that they think enough of you to offer you something. You're not just a number. They know you. And so, so that just shows that we're not sharing our business anyway with everybody. Yeah.
So a lot of times what I do, and like we said, we want to keep those form sessions down to maybe like 10, 15 minutes, because you can, if you think about it, if you just practice with someone for 10 minutes, asking them, good questions, just asking them about their family, occupation, or recreation, having them answer, you're listening to the answers and you need to remember the answers. Like I said, you can't go very, very long before you're going to start forgetting, right? Trying to memorize the phone book, it's not going to work.
Right.
So what you want to do is once you're away from the person that you're doing this forming session with, you want to write down as much as you can about that meeting so you can remember it. And what I do is on my phone, I create a contact form, or there usually is already a contact form. If I just met them for the first time, I'll say, hey, we should keep in touch. You know what? I don't know what's easier for you, social media, text, whatever. But hey, I really enjoyed this conversation. Usually it was a good conversation. I've never, ever had someone say no.
Right.
Never, ever. Out of hundreds, maybe thousands of times doing this, I've never had anyone say no.
Right. Me too.
If I do, I'll usually just give them my phone with the contact page already opened up, right?
Right.
So everyone knows what that means. There's no having to explain, hey, put your name here, put your number here, put an email. They can fill it out however they want. If they don't want to put their number in, they'll put their email in. So
right.
Put the name, whatever. And then I tell them, don't hit the save button on it, if you would, please just leave it, because I'm going to just screenshot it because I don't want to forget. I want to send you a message back so you have my contact information.
Exactly.
And that's what I do is I screenshot it. And it serves two purposes. One, it's for that reason. And the other one is at the end of the day, I go through my screenshots, and I may have one, I may have none, I may have 5. If I had 5, I probably would have forgotten if I hadn't taken the screenshot.
Exactly.
And then I would have to search through my contacts to try and figure out who that 5th contact was. Instead, I have all the screenshots, so I know who do I need to follow up with. There's hey, it was great talking to you. What do you, and maybe just set up something else. Maybe, hey, what are you doing a week from Tuesday or whatever. So anyways, so I do the screenshots, and then I go to after the session, I go to the contact, and in the notes portion of the contact, I take notes. Married for 8 years to Susan. They have 2 kids, a boy age 8, or probably not, probably age 6, Scott, and a girl, Kelsey, age 4. And I put all that information in. They love going to Disneyland, or maybe they don't like going to Disneyland, but they like something else. I put all that information in.
Yeah.
And so that way I remember it. So the next time I'm going to hang out with them or talk to them, I'll pull up his contact, refresh my memory, and I can ask, hey, how's Susan doing? I mean, the last time we talked, you said she wasn't feeling well. How's she doing? People love that, right?
Right. They do.
You think, wow, that person really cares. I remember, like, I've worked for some commanding officers who actually did things like that. They would ask when I'd see them, they'd say, how is Vikki? How's the kids? How's Misa and John?
And you would come home and tell me that.
I'm like, wow, they actually cared enough. And they have hundreds of people that work for them or work under them. And they remember Vikki and Misa and John.
And how about the new chief? There's a new chief of LAPD. And that was one of the first things I thought you said to me, that he remembers your name. He remembered me. I thought that's what you said about him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim McDonald.
Yeah. It makes you feel good.
He probably
Yeah.
doesn't remember me now. I haven't seen him in many, many, many years. But
Yeah. And
yeah,
somebody else told me that too. Yeah.
yeah. I
On
mean, just
social media.
how I met him was at a help call, and a police officer was shot, and we were the first ones there. And when he got there, he wanted to speak to who was. He goes, "Which one of you guys were here first?" And so we introduced ourselves. And the next time I saw him, he was with an entourage of command staff. He stops them, walks over, comes and shakes my hand, and says hello, asks me how I'm doing, and just asks about me. And from that point on, he was always like that. I
That
had
is
from
awesome.
77th running, it was running in the memorial run with 77th gangs. And behind us was Metro, and that's where he was going to run. He said, "You know what? I'll run with you guys." And so
Yeah.
instead of being running in the front of the group where all the rest of the command staff was to get all the TV time, he ran at the very back of the group. And there's thousands in this thing. He ran
Wow.
at the very back of the group where we were.
Wow. You know, I was just sitting here thinking it goes with my motto that I've like had for years. I read it somewhere. I didn't create this, but it's people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It is so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you care about him. Your prospect, and they don't even know they're a prospect. This person you're meeting out and about, and you're calling them later and, remembering things, they're going to be so impressed that you cared enough about them to they know you had to have written it down. Your memory, most people's memory can't be that good, but that's impressive.
Yeah. If I talked to someone and they wrote down some of the details of our conversation, I would think, wow, that's really cool that they cared enough to take the time to write down these details about me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So it's just a really good
Yeah.
way of being a good human being and just being able to talk to people and making people feel comfortable. And whether you share your business with them or not, whether anything goes further, whether you ever contact them or they ever contact you again, that was a great 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You're a better human being.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if we filled our day with a bunch of those little 10 and 15-minute little
Yeah.
slices of life?
Totally, totally. And so this form acronym can be used in all ways. And honestly, I was just thinking I'm an outgoing person, yet I struggle with talking to strangers. And you're an extroverted introvert. I feel like you're more of an introvert, sort of. And yet you can use this like crazy. No problem. I've had to push myself to learn it,
Yeah.
but now I do it. So it's honestly for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's probably true of everybody. I don't know. Probably the first few times I did it wasn't really that comfortable for me, but I knew, hey, the more times, it's just going to get more comfortable, right? It's just like anything else, like public speaking. It's like anything, golfing. Can you imagine? I can't imagine I can't remember almost how nervous I probably was on the first tee when there was actually people there watching, right? I just get super nervous. And then when I golfed enough, it was like, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
But the same with form. If you do it enough times, and you know what, you're probably not going to do it well at first, and that's okay.
Right. I was just thinking, should we model it for them real quick, like a really brief one where I'm the stranger? What do you think? Should we do like a quick? Why not? I think that might help you. Would it help you? I wish this was live where you can read your comments. All right. So pretend that I'm like at a Starbucks. How about that?
You see, and the other thing too is I don't normally go up and approach other women because I just think
pretend I'm a guy then.
Yeah, I'll pretend you're a guy because it just kind of could look really weird.
Yeah, like he's trying to pick up on me.
Yeah, could you imagine like if I'm at a Starbucks and I see and we're like the original scenario, right?
Yeah.
And a friend of Vicki's was in that same Starbucks, and she's thinking, "Wow, John's a slime. Look at him like trying to pick up on that other woman." Maybe she won't say anything to Vicky, but that's what she's going to think, and then she's going to tell. That's how rumors could start.
Yeah,
right?
it really is.
Yeah. So I normally don't, just for a lot of that reason.
All right. So we'll pretend I'm another guy. Pretend I'm not wearing pink, and I don't have long blonde hair.
Well, that would be a great way to. So, how do you like your long hair and pink sweater?
Yeah,
buddy.
All right. So, and pretend I'm wearing a Breitling or something. That's probably easy because, like John said, he keys off of watches. Just so you know, women, I compliment shoes and purses and their attire too. Like that's usually my first thing. Okay. So, yeah, I'd like to so we'll start. I'll pretend I'm ordering.
I don't like these role playing.
I know, but I think it could help.
Okay.
I could do.
No,
okay. I'll
you
take.
want to? We can
No,
switch
it's
around. All right.
okay. I'll take a latte. Okay, thank you. Here's your money. Okay, thanks.
And I've already ordered, so I'm just
Yep.
waiting. And I say, hey, I just noticed your watch. Is that a Breitling?
Yeah, it is. My
Those things are
wife
awesome.
got it for Christmas for my wife. I'm pretty excited about it.
No kidding. What model
Yeah.
is that? That looks like an Avenger.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah, I
is.
like those. The mechanical ones. Those are really nice.
Yeah.
They've been making a lot of quartz watches. Have you seen those? That's kind of their newest line. They have a bunch of quartz watches. They're a lot cheaper.
No, I haven't.
They're
Oh.
really good looking watches. If you get a chance, go online and look at them. They look great. But my main concern is they're quartz. I'm not into battery watches for like luxury watches. I think they should be
Right.
automatics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool.
So how long have you had that one?
Christmas.
This past Christmas.
Yeah, she just got it.
So you
for
haven't
me
even
for
had it a
Christmas.
year.
No, I haven't even had it more than 2 weeks.
Is that your first Breitling?
It is.
Oh,
it
that's
is.
cool. Welcome to the family.
Yeah, I had to actually look it up. She's a big fan, and I wasn't.
Yeah. So you guys live around here?
We do. We're right down the road. In fact, I got myself a latte. I should have ordered her one because I'm headed back home.
Yeah, you better. She got you a Breitling.
I know.
Right. Better get her like a whole tray of coffees.
Maybe I better. Yeah.
Where did you get that Where did she get that Breitling around here? Because I don't know that there's a Breitling.
There's a jewelry store right near our house, actually.
Yeah, because we ended up getting ours when we were on vacation. It was kind of like a little celebratory thing. So my wife got me that for vacation.
Yeah.
How long you guys been married?
So we've been married 35 years.
That's weird. That's about the same as us.
Yeah, 35, 2 kids. Life's good. They're all out of the house now.
Are they out of the house? How
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. So are ours.
Yeah, loving it.
Does your wife have that empty nest syndrome thing going on?
She does.
So does mine.
She does.
Big
yeah.
time. Do you guys have any dogs?
We do, but we just lost our one that we had for 15 years.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear
sad.
that.
Yeah.
But you still have another one.
Yeah, we have a Shiba Inu.
Oh, okay. Now are you gonna get another companion for that doggy, or are you gonna?
Yeah, my wife wants a lab, and I'm thinking an Akita.
Yeah, those are great dogs.
Yeah.
So, since your wife has this empty nest syndrome, are the dog is now the one dog helping?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank goodness. I mean, I think honestly she'd be lost without any pets now that both kids are out of the house. Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing with my wife too, and actually me too. It's kind of weird waking up to an empty house and trying to find things to do. So my wife and I we try and do some other things and get away and just kind of like we've been going to some wineries.
Yeah.
Have you been to the wineries down here?
Yeah, we actually have some favorites in Temecula.
No kidding. You know what? We should keep in contact.
Yeah.
And then let's the 4 of us maybe even find one that's dog friendly. We'll take the dogs too.
Oh, yeah.
And
What
just kind of hang out.
Do you have?
It's funny. We have the same kind of dogs. I have right now. We've got a Shiba Inu. We had an Akita.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, we should definitely.
Since we have so much in common, right? It's like crazy. Married. What's your anniversary? Is it in January?
January 28th.
Oh my God. We have way too much in common.
That's funny.
But anyways, so hey, you know what? I don't know how you want to keep in contact. For me, it's easier just to text. I'm not a big social media person, but I do have some social media. So here, let me give you my phone.
Yeah.
And I can just hit the contact.
Yeah, sounds good. My wife's a social butterfly, I tell you.
There you go. So I just go ahead and go to the contact thing. You can go.
Yeah.
So just.
Yeah.
Well, that's a weird name. It's just like a whole bunch of random letters.
And then I was about to. You didn't tell me.
Oh yeah, don't hit the save yet because that name I will never remember. So yeah. So I'm gonna have to. Then I'll just do a screenshot of it, and then I'll hit the save. And let me text you right back here so you have my info. So I'll give him my name, and then my wife's name is Vikki.
Cool.
And then there you go. So you should be getting that in a couple minutes.
Yeah, mine. I left my phone in the car, but yeah, really nice meeting you. That sounds cool.
Let's do this sooner rather than later because that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, have a good day. See how easy that was? He didn't mention the business, but that can come up later.
I'll get back in the car, drive around the corner, and then pull up. What was your name again?
XYZ Element OP.
C.Y. Beber.
I was just going like this.
I know you have 2 middle names, ER, and a last Vivi Behi. So you guys want to see that again?
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, CY Beber. So I'll go and pull up that contact, go to the notes, and then start adding in all the info that we just talked
Yeah.
about, as much as I can remember, right? Because obviously I'm not going to remember everything.
But yeah, so that we were modeling how easy that is. I mean, look at that. I think some of you might have been watching and listening and thinking we were going to go in for the kill and give the message. But as you saw, it was the 4. It was 4, and the message was not delivered. It doesn't need to be
Yeah, that's a good
delivered
point.
on spot. It can be later. And
In fact, it should be, I think.
right. Because sometimes it's too soon, and then they're like, whoa, 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 weirdo, So
And here's the other thing too. I think it's key. Uh, I continue this forming process, and it's like Vic said, it's mostly just foring, right?
Yeah.
The comes sometime later, but I continue that process because the longer that process takes, the more information you're going to have, and what you're really interested in finding out are what we call hot buttons.
Yeah.
So at some point during that process, CYBB, whatever her name was,
Who knows?
is going to tell me like, I'll be honest with you, I hate my job, because we didn't even get into occupation yet.
Right.
But maybe we're sitting at the winery, and we'll tell, hey, you want to come out here again on how about this Thursday? I can't. I have to work. Oh, okay. No problem. How about next week? No, I have to work all next week. And then it would probably be like, I hate my job, to be honest with you. I can't.
Right.
It's hard for me to get away. I don't get paid. I've had to take a pay cut. They have me working more hours. And there's going to be maybe there's a lot there. Or maybe it's my job is such that I don't get paid enough. So I have to voluntarily work a lot of overtime. And a lot of people get sucked into that whole overtime thing, trading hours for dollars, like as if your job wasn't bad enough trading dollars for hours. Now you're trading even more of your time, even more of those hours for a few more dollars.
And that's all your buddies at work. Like
A
you
lot
would
of them, yeah.
constantly try
Most
to
of
tell them a better way. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how they just keep beating their heads against the wall.
And I think a lot of people think that that's the only way to make some extra money and kind of get ahead is to work extra time and more overtime. And it's not. It clearly isn't. You can make some extra money, but what's it costing
It's not
you,
residual.
right?
Yeah.
It comes at a high price. So anyways, as you do more of this forming process, they're going to start telling you their hot buttons, or they may come up with something like, I want to take the family on a big vacation, like a big international vacation. I just can't afford it. Every time I try and save up enough, something else happens. The water heater goes out, right? The air conditioner goes out.
New roof.
Something happens, right? Because it's life. Life happens. We all understand that, right? It's pretty much happened to all of us. So they can never get to the point where they've saved enough money and they don't want to put that big of a vacation on a credit card. Can't blame them there.
Right.
So these are great hot buttons for you to have, that when you finally do deliver the message, you can say, hey, I figured a way that you can take your family on an international vacation without having to put it on a credit card. I found a way where you can make an extra $500 to $1,000 per month without having to work overtime.
Right.
And when you have those hot buttons, the person you're talking to, because you've kind of tailored your delivery of the message to them, to their needs and their wants and their desires, and what it's kind of a perfect match for them. They'll be interested to hearing about your message.
Yeah.
If you deliver the message too soon, before you have those hot buttons, before you know about what they really want in life, then it's just going to be a sales pitch.
Right.
And the walls are going to go up. It's probably going to be a no. I don't want to be sold anything, right? But you're helping them with a solution. And it truly is a solution, whatever it is you're offering. And the other thing that I wait for is I usually wait for them to ask me about what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I love that, because during this forming process, you're asking a ton of questions of the person that you're prospecting, so to speak, the person that you're considering for your business. Then you're asking a lot of questions and you're listening to the answers, and they don't really have a chance to ask you many questions usually.
Right.
But they will. Then they might ask, like Vikki asked earlier, so what kind of dog do you have?
Right.
Right. And then she asked me if I think at the beginning you might even ask me about my watch. But
right.
So there'll be questions that they'll ask. I'll give them. It's not like I'm trying to avoid their questions, because that would be weird, right? So I'll answer the questions, but I go right back and ask more questions to Vikki, because I want to know more about her.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not interested in vomiting all of my life story onto her, because also people love to talk about themselves more than they
do.
right.
They
So
do.
if Vicki's talking to me and I want her to continue having this conversation with me, I want Vicki to tell me about her life, because she's happier talking about her life than listening to me talk about mine.
Exactly.
If that makes any sense.
Totally.
Yeah. So at some point she's going to ask me, hey, or you weren't a guy,
I was
you weren't
pretending to be a man.
Yeah. So I'll just say, Victor. So Victor is probably going to ask me, hey, what do you do for a living? So I'll give him some answer, but it's going to be a real quick answer, not a big deal. I'm not going to lie to him, for goodness sakes. I'm not going to try and avoid the
never
question,
do
but I want to go back to what Victor is doing. But I don't want to give him so much of an answer that he never wants to ask me again, because I want him to be intrigued by what we do. How is it that you have so much free time? How is it that you can pick any day of the week to go to Temecula to the wineries?
Right.
How is it that you can afford to go do some of the things you've talked about doing with your wife and your kids, and soon to be grandkids? How is it that you can do all that?
Right.
And then that's when I'll say, hey, remember, and it may be that straight up question, how is it you can do all that?
Yeah.
You really want to know?
Yeah.
I have my own business. I run my own business from home.
Yep.
I can help you get started in it. You want some info? And then it's like,
it comes at the right time. Yeah. They're more open to it. I love it.
So don't like, that was a great point you brought up. Don't start on the message portion of it. Don't pull the trigger too soon, right?
Exactly.
Just let this whole thing, I mean, the cake's got to be in the oven for a little bit bacon, right? Just let it work through, let it run its course. The longer you can run that, the better.
Right.
Because you're going to get more information.
Right. It's almost like planting seeds, cultivating, and then harvesting.
Yeah,
too.
So you don't just plant and harvest.
Yeah, exactly.
There is a time of cultivation.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So you have to water and tend to your garden and pull the weeds. And,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what else I was thinking? We also have the mindset. I being a woman, I also find it funny if I'm talking to a man, I don't ask for his phone number either, just like John doesn't. That's why we kind of go towards social. Hey, are you on social media? I'll follow you there, because I'm on social media a lot. So I'll do that. And I never get a no, like you were saying. And as they're filling it out, I'm one of those that don't like silence. I think that's why I say it when I say it. But as they're filling it out, I'll say, my husband and I, we're just collecting friends all over the world. I kind of plant that seed that I just want to remain friends. I don't want them to think it's anything weird. On social media, we follow people all the time. And honestly, I've stayed in touch with so many people, so many, and that travel, that travel's their hot button. And we're always, we met somewhere in an airport. And to this day, we're still commenting on each other's stuff. And I'm still following up. A few I've offered the business, some I haven't. I haven't found the hot button on some, but some I've offered the business. Some said no, but they didn't say no forever. It was just no, not right now. And I can tell there's a few that are really open now. Now that, their life is changing a little bit. So.
Yeah, and another thing you brought up about how you don't approach men, or you're a little bit more. It's a different approach, right?
Right.
You have to be a little more reserved. You have to be a little more careful. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll even say, "Hey, you need to talk to my wife." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to go ahead and share her info." And so I'll just say, "This is my wife's cell, or this is where you can reach out to her on social media." I'm going to go and let her know that you're going to probably reach out to her. Because you guys have a lot in common, or you guys should really talk. There have been times oftentimes we get split up on airplanes. Like, it's weird, but we look at it two ways. If we sit together, great, because that's my best seatmate ever. But if we don't, it's an opportunity for us to maybe meet someone else that we can share what we do and help their lives. Because
that's what we say to each other, too.
Honestly, we do believe what we do helps people's lives. If it didn't, we wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
So if I have a seatmate, and if it's, and oftentimes what we'll do is, look, if Vicki's not stuck, but if Vicki's just by chance is sitting next to a man and I'm sitting next to a woman, the two of us will switch, because then we can have this conversation and not feel weird about it.
Right. It's true.
Sometimes we're both sitting next to men, or we're both sitting next to women.
Yeah.
And so what I'll do is, if it still works out, I'll say, yeah, my wife and I, who's back there, she's just like 2 rows back over there in the window. And then, I see her. And I said, yeah, and we did. How'd you guys get split up? Well, it's a long story, but anyways, we got split up. Not a big deal. And I'll say, yeah, well, we're flying back here because there's a conference or whatever it has to do with her business. And what does she do? Here, check this out. And I'll just show like before and after pictures of my phone. And then they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, you know what? You need to contact her, right?
Yeah.
You need to talk to her because I'm sure there's something here, right?
I know,
that
right?
interests you, and she can tell you all about it. I don't even know. I don't even understand half of it. And they're like, yeah. So then I'll go ahead and get her number. And then as a joke, I'll even maybe turn around and say, hey, Vic, I'm getting her number. And then everybody like look in the plane. Okay, this is for you though. I'm going to give you because you guys can stay in touch.
And then we smile at each other. That has happened.
Yeah, and
us two girls.
it just usually gets the whole area in there. Just everybody's laughing, and then all of a sudden people start wanting to. Well, what do you got there? What are they looking at on the phone? And it's like, oh, check this out.
Yeah. Does that stuff really work like that? Yeah, I know.
So that's worked. That's worked out really well too.
It's really true.
But have fun with it. That's the other thing too. Is it shouldn't be a job or a task. You should really once you get kind of in the flow of doing form and talking to people and kind of getting to know them, I think you'll enjoy it. Where you just do it all the time.
Yeah, we do.
Like it's the weirdest thing. There's like I have no intention of really carrying this. I know this is going to be about a 20-second conversation with this person, but I'm still going to say something.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's so cool. I do it. It reminds me to be a good person. Like you started out in the very beginning. It reminds me, even in social settings with family, to say, how have you been? How's the family? Like, because that isn't weird, right? When you're with family. And that shows you care about your own family too. Yeah. So, and friends.
Probably the person who did it best was your dad.
Yeah, my dad was such a good role model of that.
And he had no idea what form. I don't think don't think he had any idea how to do it, what to do, how anything about it was. But he was the best. Mm-hmm. He would meet people, and his gift, his superpower, right?
Yeah, totally.
Was that he would listen to their answers, whatever it was, and however long-winded their answer was.
Yeah,
he remembered details about everyone and everything they said. It was impressive.
Yeah. I just had a thought. He was he had his own business. First of all, he worked for Occidental Oil Monsanto as an executive recruiter. And then he started his own executive recruiting firm. And so I wonder if he like honed his skills on that.
I thought he was a chemical engineer with those firms. And then he was recruited so many times that he got interested in recruiting.
And it might not have been Oxy and Monsanto. You're right. It might have been the companies later where he was headhunted out. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Because then he did for one of the big companies, he became an executive recruiter for them. And he thought, why am I not doing this on my own? And then he partnered up with Paul Vero. But anyway.
He was like one of those like really super smart guys. He had a PhD in chemical engineering from Princeton University.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his master's, I think, was from New York Poly, which is another really respected school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he was a people guy. Yeah.
And he's to blame for plastic, by the way, if anybody wanted to know. I used to tell him that all the time. You're to blame for all this plastic. Yeah. And he would agree, said, I know, I'm sorry. Because that was what he was doing. He was developing plastics.
That was back in the 70s.
Yeah, back when they didn't think it was going to just be the bane of our existence.
Yeah.
But,
anyway,
but I truly believe his superpower was how he cared.
And then everybody said about him at the funeral. Yeah. Like they said, be like Ken, hashtag be more like Ken or be like Ken. Yeah. So, well, we hope we've really helped you. Watch this, listen to this episode again, particularly where John, goes over the training part of it. Because this is going to help you in all areas of your life, but especially your business.
Yeah. So have fun with it.
Thanks, John. Have a great day.
Thank you, CWB.
Have a great one, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Dig the Well.
We hope you feel empowered and ready to take on new challenges.
Remember, if we can do it, so can you. Keep learning, keep believing, and going after your dreams.
And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs a little inspiration or maybe a nudge in the right direction.
Help us grow this community of go-getters. Together, we can achieve greatness and get back to family.
Thanks for listening, and let's keep digging the well.